Aquitania. With the success of the previous Mauretania and Lusitania, the White Star Line decided to respond to said ships with the Olympic and Titanic. Granted, Titanic didn't really last that long, but they're still the Olympic, I guess. Even still, with the success of the Olympic, the Cunard Line once again responded with another ship, slightly smaller but just as grand, the Aquitania. She only had 3 voyages before World War I started, and when the war started, she was pushed into service as an AMC and quickly after was decommissioned, as AMCs that big just don't work. They don't work. In 1915, she was conscripted into war as a troop ship, then again as a hospital ship for the Dardanelles, and then later again as a troop ship. In 1920, she returned to passenger service about a year and a half after the war ended. She was filmed in a documentary in 1921, and later at the end of the year, she was the only notable large Cunard liner in service, as Mauretania had caught fire and was seeking repairs, and, well, we don't talk about the Lusitania. In the mid-20s, when the Immigration Act of 1924 went into effect, Aquitania was converted into a tourist-class liner, as third class was no longer the main source of profit for the ship. After the Depression started in 1929, Aquitania still remained decently popular on the Atlantic, which shows a lot about the ship in my opinion. 1935, her running mate Mauretania was sold for scrap, and replaced by the Queen Mary, a much more up-to-date ship, a much quicker ship, and a much larger ship. Later in the decade, her other running mate, Berengaria, was also sold for scrap. The 3 ships were nicknamed the Big Three by passengers, and then there was one. It is speculated that Aquitania would have been scrapped in 1940 when the Queen Elizabeth, the larger running mate to the Queen Mary, entered service, but whether this is true or not, this didn't happen. When World War II broke out, Aquitania was again conscripted as a troop ship. Initially, she took Canadian troops to Scotland, and then Australian troops to Suez. And then she had service in the Pacific. In 1941, she picked up survivors from the German auxiliary cruiser Cormoran, and by the end of the war, she carried nearly 400,000 soldiers and sailed over 500,000 miles. Prime Minister Churchill credited Aquitania, along with Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, for, quote, shortening the war by at least a year. The first few years following World War II, Aquitania carried war brides, and the last year afterwards, aka pretty much just 1949, Aquitania went back to commercial service to be scrapped early the next year, ending a ship with 37 years of history.